Welcome back to me reading Transported, a Wings of Fire story. This time it's going to be chapter 21. As usual, if this is your first time reading or watching this little series, I recommend you to watch the previous chapters or read them yourself. Now let's begin. It was about midday. The sun was high up in the cloudless sky as it shone down upon the golden, scorching desert. Winter had recently woken up from his semi-coma. However, he was too injured internally to fly properly, and as such was stuck traveling on foot. Plus, it was way too hot to continue their journey to the borderland anyways, and if they needed to travel on foot, they would tire themselves out. So instead, the group of dragonettes decided to kill some time. This was done by having Daniel give them a 2-hour lecture and explanation and about everything he knew regarding their secrets or regarding secrets and knowledge. Yeah, that's about it, really, Daniel concluded. He didn't know how long he was speaking to them for, but it had to be a long time by now. Daniel really didn't want it to come to this, when he had to explain everything to everyone. Well, not everything, Daniel thought. He clutched his skyfire rock tightly in his talon, hoping it was blocking out Moon's mind reading. After the whole dramatic situation, Daniel was indirectly forced to spill his own secrets to them, of which went decently, I would say. So Daniel did just that. He told them almost everything about himself. He told them he wasn't actually from Pyrea, and actually from another dimension named Earth. He told them that he knew a lot about them, because on Earth there were stories about Pyrea. No, I wasn't exactly lying when I said that. I just left out the bit. We wrote the stories, and you guys are all factually fake, because I'm pretty sure that would not go well. In reality, he really didn't say much, apart from being from another dimension. Most of the time was taken up by him answering questions. A lot of questions. It was mainly just questions about what Earth was like, and such, and such. Nothing too crazy. Although, there were a few times where he had to completely lie for their sake. One of these times was when Keepley asked, "So, strictly speaking, if you're from another dimension, doesn't that mean there are other dragon tribes?" It was a basic question in their eyes, because Daniel never said he was actually human. So he needed to come up with some quick thinking answers, or else his real secret would be spilled right then and there. Well, yes, sort of, Daniel lied. We do have other tribes, but the differences are mainly just scale color. Nothing like what you have here. Technically, Daniel didn't lie to them. At least not directly. We love lying we love lying of omission. Let's continue. He just stated the differences, the different races, in a different form. If they believed he was talking about other dragons, it was on them. Okay, so anything else? I've been answering questions for the last hour and a half, and I would really like to change the subject. Daniel peered around at his friends, who were just processing this new information. But soon, Daniel remembered something. Keebley, you still haven't told me where you got that weapon. Or more importantly, how you got it. Everyone turned to look at Keebley, who looked slightly nervous. You won't believe me if I tell you, he said, and that's when Winter piped up. Really, Keebley? You're going to say the same story again. Like, come on, man. You can talk to us. Winter sounded both aggravated and reassuring, which Daniel didn't even think was possible. Keebley, at this point, I'm ready to hear anything. Just tell me, Daniel said, now curious at how his friend had gotten his hands on a weapon that, as far as he was aware, didn't exist on Pyrea. Keeley sighed in defeat, still thinking that nobody would believe him, but he spoke up anyways. Fine. But when you don't believe me, or don't tell me to make a different story, because I'm telling you the truth. Works for me, Daniel said calmly. And so, Keebley began another 45-minute speech as he described what had happened to him in the most detail as dragonly possible. Dragonly. Lamau. He started from his disturbing nightmare to his unexplainable visions of what a mysterious voice claimed to be the future, to eventually him revealing that the weapon was given to him by the voice, and that the blood on it was his own mother's. There, that's it. Keeley sniffled as he finally finished recapping probably one of the most scarring moments he will ever experience. Wiping a tear from his eye, he finally asked, "Any questions?" He gave a shy smile to try and lighten the mood, but it was clear he was still traumatized by what he saw. Daniel noticed he was still wearing the cloak around his neck that the voice had given him. "Why are you still wearing the cloak?" Daniel asked. Knowing Keebley, he wouldn't do anything unless it was for a reason, which is why Daniel had the suspicion that he was hiding something. Keebley looked up at him. His eyes felt short of panicked, but at this point, he couldn't tell if it was because of what Daniel had said or literally anything else that had happened today. "Oh, no reason," Keebley said quickly, though this only raised Daniel's suspicions even more. "Can I have a look at it?" Daniel asked innocently, although his skeptical glare said otherwise. Keebley was panicking internally now. He was clutching his own Skyfire rock, which Daniel had explained blocked Moon's mind reading. That was also going to be another massive debate, but at the time, Daniel really didn't want to get into it, so he switched the subject before they could get started on it. It took a while for Keeley to respond, but he firmly said, "Sorry, Hurricane, but it's my cloak, and I would prefer if you didn't touch it." Although right after he said that, Keeley shook his head, and started breathing heavily, like he didn't know what was going on in that moment. However, Daniel did, because he recognized the tone of voice, despite the sound of it belonging to Keeley. The tone was from somewhere else. It was from me. The voice spoke suddenly in his head, which nearly made him jump. "What? How are you in my mind?" Daniel yelled to the voice, whose laughter was echoing off the walls. "Do you really think you could escape me?" The voice laughed. "That's funny." Daniel was uncertain. He thought he had just barely escaped that horrid dream alive. "And you did," the voice interrupted him. "If it wasn't for your amateur If it wasn't for your animus friend, you would have been dead in the next few seconds." The voice growled. "Well, I'll have to hang it to you. I'll have to hang it to you." The mysterious voice echoed in the background. "You were the first in many decades to ever survive my nightmare, even if you had help. So for that, I lend you a small gift." The voice started to crack, like it was losing its ability to speak. "What kind of gift?" Daniel asked skeptically, not knowing if he should even accept it. "Let's say a cutting one," the voice responded cryptically. Daniel didn't understand what he meant, but didn't have time to ponder, as he could feel the voice starting to leave his mind. However, he needed to know at least one last thing before it left. "Hey, dumbass! I never got your name. Or should I just call you Krakenhead from now on?" Daniel called out. He tried to make a slight joke in order to both insult the person who just tried to kill him, and also to try and ease tension in his own body. Well, I guess it's fair for you to know my name if we are going to be talking quite often from now on. You can call me." The voice was fading away. It was getting harder to make out, or to just make out what he was saying. But Daniel had close attention. But Daniel had close attention, and he could make out his final words. "The gatekeeper." The words rang through Daniel's skull. The crackling of fire and the screams of dragons blared within the burrows of his brain. He toppled forward onto the floor as the screams continued, like they were trying to escape the prison of his mind. Soon it became unbearable, but just as Daniel was about to scream out, it stopped. He was left disoriented, struggling to gain his bearings on the world around him. It took a few moments, but his vision began to clear slightly, just as Turtle called out to him, "Whoa! Are you okay, Hurricane?" Which finally snapped Daniel out from his daydream. Daniel shook his head before he responded, the last of his dizziness fading away as the world came to a stop around him. "Yeah, I'm all right," Daniel responded, although As he got up on his talons again, he felt a sharp pain on one of his palms. This caused him to visibly flinch and caught the attention of the others. Are you sure you're all right? Moon asked uncertainly. Daniel winced as he lifted one of his front talons off the ground. He was shocked not only to find a large gash across the entirety of his left talon, but also what appeared to be the most beautiful and deadly weapon he had ever seen. Is this what he meant by a cutting gift? Daniel thought angrily. God damn it, piece of stupid cryptic voice! He screamed out loud, not caring if the others thought he was crazy. No, he is to me. Arr! Daniel groaned painfully as he clutched his talon. Thick red blood swept from the wound and onto the cave floor, which at this point could be considered a bloody canvas. 3 moons. Turtle cursed under his breath. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. Daniel watched as Turtle ran to where Pearl was sitting. Although they had been sitting there for a while, she hadn't given back Turtle's enchanted stone. It was just sitting on the floor in front of them, along with about 10 or 20 other rocks. It didn't take long to find it, however, as there was only one rock radiating with heat, which Daniel assumed was from Pearl's fire scales. Turtle grabbed the stone, wincing slightly due to the unexpected high temperatures. Bringing the stone to Daniel, who was on the verge of tears, the stone was placed in his injured palm. Daniel bit his tongue. He could feel the wound healing. However, there was also the agonizing sensation of high temperatures on an open gash. After a few seconds, he took the stone off and placed it back on the ground in front of him. Here he switched his attention to the voice's cutting gift. I'll be sure to remember this, you dumb shadow, Daniel thought. He picked up the object, which he immediately recognized. It was a basic metal weapon. However, it was one that was by far too advanced for Pyrean's time. All right, tangent here, but exactly what tech level is Pyrea at? Because to me, it's like, medieval era, maybe even fucking early Renaissance. Like, they don't have like electricity, that's for certain. They don't have steam engines. They don't have anything like that. Yeah, I think that is perplexing to me. Anyway, tangent over. How did he even manage to give this to me? Well, I guess he kind of did the same with Keebly. So who am I to know? Just then, however, the exact dragon he was thinking about spoke up. You heard him too, Hurricane? Keebly asked, slightly fearful, yet curious. He gave him a small nod before Keebly turned his attention to the weapon in Daniel's talons. And what's that? Keebly studied the object Daniel was holding, absolutely clueless of what it could be. A cutting gift, Daniel said as he flipped open the weapon to reveal what it was. 2 golden handles span in the air for a quick second around Daniel's talons before it revealed a dark, ice blue blade. In my world, we call it a butterfly knife, or the more official name, a balisong. He gets a TF2 spy knife, Lamau. Daniel looked down upon the blade. He just didn't understand how the voice was able to give it to him. Or more importantly, why? He could have given him literally anything else. But he didn't have time to ponder, for just then he had remembered what he overheard on the way back to the cave. Winter was about to ask a question about the blade, but was cut off by Daniel before he could get a word out. Guys, I need to tell you something, Daniel said in a more serious tone. He paused for a small moment to make sure the others were listening. I'm just going to put it bluntly. Daniel took a deep breath. Keebly, on the way back here, I ran into your siblings. Daniel watched as Keebly's face fell from a natural cheery look to slight fear and anxiety. Rattlesnake and Sergio? Keebly asked. Daniel nodded his head. Yeah, them. Well, did they do anything to you? Keebly scanned Daniel's body for any possible injuries that his siblings could have inflicted. No, don't worry. I hid behind a sand dune and wasn't spotted by them, Daniel said, calming Keebly down slightly. However, I did overhear them talking. He moved closer so everyone could hear him, although they were all paying such close attention that it wasn't really needed. Vulture wants the map, Ghibli. He sent both of your siblings to hunt us all down as we speak, and as such, we need to get a move on. Daniel got up to look at the small crowd of dragons in front of him, who just stared back, uncertain of what to do. Well, don't just sit there. We need to go, Daniel yelled, which immediately got everyone up on all fours. However, while everyone else gathered anything they wanted to bring along, Daniel spotted a worried Winter. Wait, Winter can't fly with his injuries. There's no way he'd be able to last 5 minutes up there. Daniel had messed up big time. He'd completely forgotten Winter was unable to fly, and they wouldn't be going anywhere unless he thought of something quick. Daniel walked up to him, but this time, Winter was the one to cut him off before he could say anything. I'll manage, Winter stated flatly. What? I said I'll manage, Winter repeated. I know you came up to me to ask about my flying. I'll manage. You can't be serious, Daniel said, astounded. You're insane. The Ice Kingdom is at least another 8 hours of flying away. Probably more even, Daniel shouted. In reality, he didn't know exactly how far the Ice Kingdom actually was, but he assumed it would be about that distance. Besides, he continued, no matter how much willpower you have, you won't be able to last 5 minutes up in the air. Wow, thanks for the boost of confidence, Winter scoffed, rolling his eyes. Daniel groaned, but he wouldn't let Winter get away. But Daniel groaned, but he wouldn't let Winter get his way, because if he does, it might be his last flight. Period. Winter, my point is that the moment you are not for flying, you not 4-4 flying. We love typos, that make us laugh. Are not 4-4 flying. You will mess up your internal system. So, Winter said, not convinced it would be that bad. Are you not listening to me? Winter, you could die. Daniel screamed. I can't let you do this to yourself. Winter stared back at him. His face was cold, but a small bit of tenderness lay underneath all of it. Winter sighed. Fine. Then what do you propose we do about my incapability to fly? He made a sarcastic claw gesture at the word incapability, but he was willing to not go through with his original plan. For now, at least. Daniel mumbled as he put a claw on the bottom of his snout. Well, I do have one possible solution. It was definitely one of the most stupid ideas he ever had, but they were desperate. Well, it's worth a shot, I guess. Daniel sat down on the floor, his limbs tucked closely to his body, so he would be able to stand up easily. What are you doing, Hurricane? Winter asked, eyeing him skeptically. Well, since you can't fly, I'm going to have to carry you. Now get on, Daniel explained. A good one. Winter laughed. For one of the few times he did, but his face slowly fell when he realized Daniel was just sitting there, patiently. Wait, you're serious? Winter said, his face falling to disbelief. 100%, Daniel smiled. I think you're insane on this. I think you're the insane one this time, Winter replied coldly, not wanting to take another step closer to Daniel. I'm not riding on your back. I don't think you have much of a choice on this one, dude, Daniel pointed out, gesturing to the rest of the group, who were already gathered at the cave entrance. Winter stared back before he swore under his breath. Fine. But if I die, or something else happens to me or to you, it's your fault, Winter said as he pointed a sharp claw at Daniel. Fine by me. Now get on already. We got places to be, Winter grumbled as he walked around to Daniel's backside. Under his breath, Daniel heard Winter say, Moons, I can't believe I'm actually doing this. Winter sat down on Daniel's back. He leaned forward a little to where his head was almost next to Daniel's. His limbs were tucked in neatly along his sides. Winter's scales were close to freezing, and it sent multiple shivers down Daniel's spine and scales. Ugh, you're heavier than you look, Winter, Daniel said. Are you calling me fat? Winter growled dangerously. No, not at all. Just wondering how the best way to carry you across a desert is. Daniel responded coolly, not coldly. He wrapped his tail around Winter's, which made him hiss. Oi, what are you doing? Having to hang on to you is bad enough. I don't need your tail there as well. Winter hissed. Plus, isn't that kind of thing for couples? Not necessarily. It helps with support, Daniel said. Plus, it's good practice for when you get to do it with Ghibli over there. Daniel watched as Winter's face turned from ice blue to navy within seconds. Shut it! Winter bellowed. Fine, fine. I won't tease you anymore. Daniel spoke before adding, for now at least. But hold on, because I'm getting up. Daniel lifted himself onto all fours again. He nearly fell over due to the large amount of weight on his back, but he managed. You feeling all right up there, Icy? Daniel teased, although he had just said he would stop. Uh-huh, Winter confirmed. And don't call me that. Sorry, couldn't help myself. Daniel half apologized. All right, now down to business. Daniel walked over to the others. They hadn't seen him yet, but when they did, their faces changed to a mix of puzzlement and confusion. Hey guys, we're ready to go, Daniel said confidently. Okay, but what exactly am I looking at? Moon asked. Well, since Winter here can't fly due to his internal injuries, I reckon I would carry him, Daniel explained. Plus, I think he enjoys the view. Shut it! Winter spat, which nearly made him lose balance and fall off. However, he was held on by tightening his tail around Daniel's. You do know I could just enchant, Turtle started, but was sternly cut off by Daniel. No, you're not going to enchant anything. Your soul is priceless, and I won't let you throw it away. Winter can manage. Turtle looked between his claws and Daniel before he reluctantly agreed. Fine, Turtle sighed. Oh, and by the way, here's your stuff back. Turtle handed Daniel his ouch. His ouch. We love typos here, especially this one. Turtle handed Daniel his ouch with all his belongings, including a much-missed Baron's map. Daniel smiled. Thanks for keeping it safe for me. Well, actually, it was Winter who cradled it the entire time you were away, so you have to thank. Not thank him, just thank. We love typos here. They make us laugh. You have to thank. Daniel pointed out, or Turtle pointed out, my bad. Oh, well, in that case, thanks, Icy. Daniel teased once again. I told you to stop calling me that, Winter bellowed, which only made Daniel and the others laugh a little. Can we just get out of here already? This is humiliating, Winter complained from on top of Daniel. Yeah, calm yourself, Daniel said. All right, guys, let's go. We know where the border is, right? Yep, 10 or 12 hours northwest. We'll be there by sundown, Moon confirmed. Well, then what are we waiting for? Let's go! Daniel took off the ground in the direction of where Moon pointed. The others followed behind him, and Winter as they flew away from the cave and the high noon sun. You better get comfortable. It's going to be a long ride. Daniel laughed as he heard Winter sigh. He looked forwards as the rest of Pyrea loomed in front of him. He was both excited and terrified of what was to come. But as long as I'm with the gang, I'll be fine. I know that for a fact. Ice Kingdom, here we come. And that is the end of this chapter. Besides for, as usual, the author's words at the very bottom. Hello, beautiful readers, and thank you for reading another chapter. I'll be editing this tomorrow, so the typos won't be fixed until later. But I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. I'll see you guys next time. Bye! So, Daniel got a weapon, a TF2 knife spy, or TF2 spy knife. He's now carrying Winter on his back. The gaggle fuck of a group he's with knows he ain't from Pyrea. Although if I were in Daniel's shoes, I'd just fucking tell him, yeah, I'm a fucking human. Okay, you're all fucking fake. No, I wouldn't, but I'd say I'm human. Yeah. I think that's it. I didn't hear anything from Star in this one. Yeah. See you next time.